We are very good at pretending to not to be in love, maybe we are bad at showing it when we are allowed. That phrase said by Ilya in The Long Game is exactly what I want to talk to you about. On the one hand, he's describing this bad double date with Fabian and Ryan, but I think that he is naming what more than 10 years of their relationship in secret have taught them about expressing love. Why are Shane and Ilya so emotionally fluid in private, but they cannot express themselves as a couple when they are finally allowed? Problem is that they have learned to express their love in any ways that can be misread by other people as joke, teasing, or a prank. And even their friends cannot believe that this love is mutual. Welcome back to my channel. Here we take romance seriously and close read the most interesting scenes and characters. And with today's video, I would like to start my The Long Game series. And my point that Shane and Ilya are not bad in expressing their love in private. They are very good in intimacy, but they don't know how to give their couple this couplehood experience, this recognizable space, even when they are allowed. And that's one of the biggest problems that they face in The Long Game. And I feel like the book builds this concept of secrecy in 3 stages. Firstly, it's rivalry. Rivalry becomes the safest public form of love. Second, private intensity becomes much more easier than ordinary couplehood. And third, they hide their relationship so well, but even when people learn about Shane's love, they cannot believe it's mutual. And firstly, of course, let's talk about rivalry because it continues in The Long Game. So, they are still rivals. There is a story about them that still exists in the league, in the world, but they are the biggest rivals. They are teasing each other, they insult each other, they compete with each other. And actually, this is the best camouflage that they have because any public attention that they give to each other can be read as rivalry. Even this documentary about them was about their rivalry. The public story is so established it can absorb anything about them. And that matters because rivalry allows them to pay attention to one another without admitting what this attention means. They can stare, they can tease, they can obsess over each other's performance, they can stand too close, they can even kiss each other, and that would be considered teasing or a joke or a prank. The reason why this rivalry works as camouflage so well is that it's about chemistry. So rivalry is about chemistry and also their love is about romantic chemistry. And that means they can show this chemistry without explaining what this chemistry means. What type of chemistry is that? Is it rivalry or is it romantic chemistry? One of the best examples is when Max says that they look kind of adorable when they train kids. And Ilya was pleased with that comment. He really loved it. But Shane was not pleased. He started panicking. He started thinking like, what happens if other people also see us as adorable instead of seeing us as rivals? And he instantly steps away from Ilya to create this public space between those two. But what happens next? When they turn around the corner, Ilya starts kissing Shane in the locker room. And this is what they do. So in public, they step away from each other. In private, they intensify. And this reflex has been practiced for years. And if we talk about the commissioner, I was fascinated with the fact that actually they can market their kiss as a prank. He said that pranks in hockey are normal and you have already a backup story for it because we have been building it for the last 13 years that you are rivals and that's just a prank. And that would work. People would believe it because they invested so much time and effort into creating this rivalry story that now it can cover almost anything between those two. The rivalry is not the opposite of their love. The rivalry is a type of chemistry they allow to show in public. And that's pretty smart. And that's what keeps their relationship alive. But that creates another problem. When they are allowed to express their feelings in public, finally, they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to be a regular couple. And their first double date is actually one of my favorite scenes in the book because nothing dramatic happens, right? It's a very ordinary scene between Ilya and Shane and Fabian and Ryan. But Shane is terrified. He and Ilya have spent the last decade fighting, reconciling, having sex, then making huge life decisions around each other. But dinner with another couple is new and totally different. And at the restaurant, Shane is hyper aware. So Ilya tries to support him. Ilya introduces him as my Shane, and Ilya keeps his foot pressed against Shane's. Those invisible ways of supporting and loving each other in public that they are allowed to have. Then there is Ryan and Fabian in front of them. They do something ordinary. They don't save each other lives to prove that they love each other. They just sit there, they look at each other with adoration. Fabian kisses Ryan, and Ryan is trying to fight a smile. That's some ordinary couplehood. And that's why I think it strikes Shane so hard, because on the way back from the restaurant, Shane asks Ilya, do you think we look like that to them? Meaning, do we look like we are in love? And then Ilya thinks and answers, right, that we are very good at hiding this love. We are very good at pretending to not to be in love, so we don't know how to show it when we are allowed around our friends or other queer couple. And Ilya's answer lasts so heavenly because he understands the difference. He already wants something more. He already wants to move this boundary of public versus private, but Shane is terrified. Shane is not there yet. And this problem actually returns several times. One of the examples is the Christmas present, when Ilya gives Shane a photograph of them together. And Shane genuinely loves it, but he says he will put it in the cottage. Again, this relationship can exist only at the cottage, only in the hidden place for our hidden relationship. And then it again comes back to sex, and I think that's their way of compensating, because they trust each other, they love each other, and the feeling is still there, because physical intimacy can contain the real emotion that they have without forcing them to solve their problem immediately. The other example is the Halloween party, when Ilya invites Shane, but Shane asks, why would you want me there? And for Ilya, the answer is obvious. I want to spend time with my boyfriend, with my friends, with my teammates. Why it's so weird for you? But for Shane, it's terrifying. And then we read how Ilya is dancing alone while his teammates are with their partners. And for Ilya, it's devastating, because Ilya wants to see Shane inside his life, and that's where it's so tricky, because you have to separate your love life from social belonging, and Ilya struggles with it a lot. Ilya is suffering from it. At least Shane's friends can know that he's gay, right? But it's not the same with Ilya, and they can have their private jokes, the cottage, the FaceTime calls, and 10 years of devotion, but having a framed photograph or going to a party together is much more dangerous for them than all of that. And this is what they do, right? So they have this private intensity, and they compensate with this private intensity for everything they cannot do together as an ordinary couple in public. A private relationship is based on trust, and they do have this trust. But visible couplehood is also very important, because it makes your relationship real for the world. And here I would like to make an important comment, that it's not like Secrecy damaged their relationship and coming out made it healthy. The Secrecy did damage their relationship to some extent, but it also allowed them to kind of master this language of privacy. That was the only language they could practice, right? They could not be an ordinary couple who is out there in public from day one. And I feel like they have a much deeper emotional connection, and they know each other better than many other couples who are public from day one. And the third idea that I would like to discuss with you is that they also try to hide the mutuality of their relationship. And here I love DJ's character, because I feel like his whole role is a perfect proof for my argument that I'm trying to make here. So after Ilya's playing scare, Shane is shaken, and DJ notices. And he noticed it long ago when he tried to set up Shane with some David guy. GJ notices a larger pattern of Ilya and Shane relationship. That Shane cares much more than a normal rival or a friend would. So JJ reaches a correct emotional conclusion that Shane is in love with Ilya and it's one-sided. Yeah, so Shane has an unrequited crush on a straight man. And just imagine how extraordinary this is. Even after Ilya moved into Ottawa, and which does not make any sense for the league, right? They do not like it. One of Shane's closest friends cannot believe that this love can be mutual. They made this idea of reciprocity totally unbelievable. And Shane understands that at some point. When JJ comes to him with this idea, Shane actually likes it. Then he's trying to do something that in Russian would be called sitting with one S on two chairs. So he understands that basically there is another thing, there is another explanation for that. That Shane loves Ilya maybe, yeah, but it's one-sided, and it keeps the image of Ilya as a straight man. So basically it still works. So they try to kind of become visible to some extent, but still using the protection of invisibility. Even their first attempt of becoming visible still relies on the idea of being misread. And at some point that was how Shane wanted to develop their relationship. Then luckily, they decided that it's time for them to become visible without any alternative explanation. And that's what makes it so big, so brave, and so inspiring. And when the commissioner offers them to say that their kiss was a prank, he basically suggests that they go back to their old language of secrecy and rivalry. But this time they decide to make a different decision. And they are tired of making it invisible for everyone. Their relationship is no longer a misunderstanding. I love how the book makes it a full circle of the events. Right after leaving the commissioner's office, they are walking down a busy Montreal street holding hands, which is the opposite of what they did on that double date with Fabian and Ryan. Later, they choose photographs for their public post. And it's again about photographs, right? And Ilya takes a picture of them in bed and Shane says, "Oh, look at that, we are unmistakably in love," which goes back to that question that he asked Ilya on their way back from the double date. And then Shane recognizes this tiny change, that now they can keep their photos. They don't need to delete it. They don't need to move it to the cottage. They can have it. They can even post it. They can let the world see not only Shane's feelings or Ilya's feelings. The world can see their mutual love to each other. And actually I love that the first party when they are together as a couple is actually their wedding. The opposite of the Halloween party where Ilya was alone without Shane. And that's not the end of the process, right? Because coming out does not erase 10 years of learned habits and reflexes. They still need to learn new languages of love in public. They still need to figure out how to play on the same team. They still need to figure out how to live together full time. But the epilogue already gives us a new language of their ordinary couplehood. Like they wake up together, they walk Anya, they make breakfast, then they drive to the arena together, then they openly flirt in front of the team. Nobody has to invent any other explanation for it. So when Ilya said that they are good at pretending not to be in love and bad and showing when they are allowed, he means this secrecy. He doesn't say that they don't know how to love. He's naming what long-term secrecy can do. That love has to survive through rivalry, camouflage, social isolation, invisibility. Yeah, so that was my take on the whole secrecy of their relationship. Let me know what you think about this whole part of the book of their relationship. I felt like for me, this book and their story has changed a lot of things. But one of the things that I took from the long game is to never take PDA for granted. I feel like if we have an opportunity to show our love to our partner in public, we should cherish it, we should use it. And yeah, here I mean like legal forms, not something illegal, right? It's something so important, so meaningful for the relationship. Anyway, so never take PDA for granted. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel because I'm definitely going to be talking more about Heated Rivalry, The Long Game, and other books from that universe and other series, all of that. See you in the next video. Bye bye.